Spaulding High School has about 1,400 students, and roughly 47% of our students are on free or reduced lunch.
Morning, Allie.
Morning.
Number one, what are the two key shapes that we have in number one? I'm teaching a geometry freshman level class, and the unit we're working on is surface area and volume. So luckily, when we're calculating surface area,
the Rochester School District moved to competency-based grading 7 years ago.
It's different than having a letter grade because in most schools you take a test and then they find the percentage out of it. So you get a 70 on a test, that's barely passing, whatever. But you only know 70% of the material, yet you're still being able to go on. But with competencies, you actually have to show that you know the whole scope of the subject to actually be able to pass and move on to the next topic.
squared for a grand total of?
804.
804.23. I have on the counter for you a packet of materials that are in separate pages. It's called Yum Yum Cereal at the top.
The system is designed so that if a student doesn't quite meet the competency, that they can relearn and they can reassess and they can do it again. This whole archaic system of moving kids along because of how old they are really goes away with this competency system, because it's more about what they're understanding and what they're learning and what they're able to show that they can do.
Now this rubric is exactly the rubric you will be using on your PACE task next week.
During the No Child Left Behind era, people spent a lot of money producing tests that experts created and felt represented student learning the best. We've learned a lot from these high-stake tests. We've learned that not every student really does well in these settings. Not every student really takes these assessments seriously. And these assessments may not be able to measure some of the skills that we're looking for, especially the 21st century skills that students absolutely need at this point.
When we heard that there was a chance to try a different accountability measure and a different system, and it was performance assessments, we dove in with 3 other districts in the state of New Hampshire.
All right, make sure it's paper clipped together. Put them in the inbox. Have a great day. See you Monday. The water tower proposal. Student instructions looks like this. We're going to start right on the task today. Good news is you have a job. Your town's population is predicted to increase over the next 3 years. As one of the town's planners, you were asked to address the issue in terms of the town's water supply. Your job is to prepare a proposal that can be submitted to the town planning committee. The proposal should include a cover page, title, name, date, and goal of the proposal, models and scale drawings, calculations and mathematical strategy, communication of analysis and recommendation.
This week, for our geometry PACE assessment, the problem was that our town was needing to build a new water tower because of the fact that our population was growing. And so we were the people to design the water tower and make sure that it could hold enough water while also being cost efficient.
We had to find 2 shapes. You could do any shape really besides a rectangular prism. So I just did a cylinder for my first one. I'm just going to do a cylinder and a sphere because I don't like triangles.
I knew right away there's different shapes. They have the same volumes. A sphere, as always, has the least amount of surface area, and that's what we were looking for.
It's not just the people who do have a better memory that will succeed. It's people who are able to use their creativity, use their critical thinking.
I found it interesting when we kind of put it as if we're a designer for a water tower. It gets a little personal that way.
They're presented with a problem and asked to fix it. And When you ask someone to fix something, they instantly become engaged with, well, how do I do that? What are the requirements? What do I need to work with?
When the expectations increase, so does the rigor and so does the learning. With this PACE initiative comes the higher level thinking and the 21st century skills that we hope will carry over to other parts of the curriculum.
I have a pile of rubrics.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Today we are working in a group of geometry teachers here at the high school to calibrate and go through student work and really come to a consensus on the scoring.
So the calibration is getting a sense of what we all agree on for score levels. Who wants to volunteer a piece of student work?
The calibration is really important because we're reporting these scores out not only in our classroom, but we're also reporting them out to the state as part of the test scores. I'd like to thank the student for keeping the same scale on both diagrams.
The grading for these can be a lot more complex for us teachers because there's not a right and wrong answer like there are on a typical test. We're asking a lot more of the students, which requires a lot more of us when it comes to grading.
What we've actually discovered most of the time is that the teachers come together and can come up to a consensus pretty quickly on what the different scales mean and how these things are going to be scored.
On the next, calculations and mathematical strategies, everybody gave it a 3 or the competent. Remember, 3 is the competent level, except Tyler gave it a 2.
Surface area is wrong. However, I was pretty proud of the student for calculating the slant height, and all the other computations were really good. They used lateral area of the cone to compensate for the overlap area. A lot of students don't even think about that.
Tyler, how would you handle this with a student for a grade?
This is competent.
This is where we talk about our craft. This is where we talk about what we're doing well, some changes we need to make, up to instruction, to curriculum.
I wonder if that stems back to when we're grading assignments and in the old math, it was like if you didn't write your formula before you did the work, teachers were marking it wrong.
So that's probably something we as a department really need to sit down and focus on, is working math out vertically nicely.
And this is very new to our district, where we're all looking at student work together. Collaboration is at the forefront now.
What conversations are you having in your buildings about the achievement level descriptors? So let's just talk for a minute about the middle school. How is it going with the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers?
Every year, teachers from across the state get together and develop the next year's performance assessment.
Then we get into the minutia detail of like finding arc lengths in sectors. Well, can you find a great arc? Can you find a minor arc? Do you know the difference?
One big idea is circles. So then we would break down, because supporting understandings of circles would be that there's lengths, there's theorems.
Right. Like you were saying earlier, congruence.
Congruence.
Oh,
we haven't done congruence.
Developing those tasks together has been an extreme creative process, and so it's really invigorated me as a teacher in my classroom, and I think that my colleagues across the districts would say the same thing.
We were saying like how cool it would be to have them write a script and then produce some sort of video, or do a personal narrative and then create like a digital storytelling of it.
We're really thinking about those higher level thinking skills. You know, are we asking students to apply knowledge? Are we asking them to problem solve? Are we asking them to synthesize what they learned today with what they know from what they learned in the past?
To hear about what's happening in other schools and to actually see student work and to see an assessment that I gave to my students and see what other students in other districts have come up with. It's very eye-opening. Who can go much deeper because it's an easier book. It's made an impact on just about everything I teach, even though the PACE aspect is a very small aspect of the school year for me.
I can fluently add, subtract, multiply, divide, estimate using whole numbers, fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals. I see that a little bit more as fourth grade.
You have access to that. This work that we're doing with PACE is a nice reminder of what really matters. It's so far beyond the basic end of the module test or the workbook page. It's really about what matters.
So as commissioner, my job is to help other people understand what you are all trying to do. This is going to change this country. You are truly going to transform education.
We just came back from a national conference, and what was really striking to us, it was all about New Hampshire. No matter what session we went to, people wanted to sit down and talk with us about what we were doing. It's become a national thinking model. I mean, it really has created a think tank in our country.
Competency-based has affected the school system in that we had to look deeply into how we're grading, why we're grading, what do grades mean, and then how do we assess the student work. So that brought a lot of teachers together to have those conversations within our school. PACE has brought teachers together from multiple schools to have these same conversations.
Today here at the conference, I heard several special education specialists who were talking about how they can see PACE very much connected to the notion of all children. As children move through our educational system, all children will have an opportunity to demonstrate their understanding of concepts.
In preparation for PACE, we are implementing more and more performance tasks. Now the classroom is a little more alive with project-based learning where they're applying knowledge, creating their own designs, defending their logic.
The PACE initiative is holding schools and teachers accountable like a standardized test would, but it's a better snapshot of what kids are actually able to do.
This is definitely a better way to prove that the students understand the work. It's totally organic. You know, you have to come up with all the material yourself. You can't just guess at this.
When I have my own job, I'm gonna have to actually put my skills to use, and this is kind of a mini form of that.
We can't prepare you for every problem you're going to see, but can you solve the problem that you get?
The work to get there? Sure, put it in the I'm teaching freshman level geometry.